You're putting in the hours, you're improving your videos, and your channel still isn't growing the way it should. So those thoughts start creeping in. The algorithm hates me. My content isn't getting pushed. I'm doing everything right, and somehow it's still not working. But it's not the algorithm, and it's likely not your strategy either. As a high-performance mindset coach for YouTube creators, I've worked with a lot of clients who were in exactly this place, doing everything right on the outside, and yet still stuck. And what I found almost every single time is that the real block isn't visible from the outside. It's something running underneath, something that quietly keeps your channel capped, no matter how hard you work. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to shift it. So here's what I found working with creators at this level. The ceiling isn't on the outside. It's not your titles, it's not your thumbnails, and it's not your posting schedule. It's an identity ceiling. Your channel will grow to the level you actually believe you're capable of, and then it stops, because that's where your identity draws the line. Now think about that for a second. Your brain is not neutral about your success. There are structures in your brain whose job is to filter your reality through what feels familiar and consistent with who you believe you are. And what that practically means is your brain will unconsciously filter out opportunities, dismiss feedback, and quietly steer your behavior to keep your results matching your self-concept. Not because it wants you to fail, but because familiarity feels safe. So if your channel starts to outpace your identity, something in you will quietly pull it back. Maybe you suddenly feel the need to second guess a video that was already working. Maybe you start over editing. Or maybe you pull back on a content direction that was starting to gain traction, telling yourself it needs more refinement first. And it doesn't feel like self-sabotage. It feels like being careful. But careful is often just the story the identity tells to stay in a familiar place. Because growth can be scary and uncertain. That's an identity ceiling doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now, the good news is this ceiling isn't permanent. This is something I regularly work through with creators. And what I found is that there's a consistent process for identifying it, understanding what's driving it, and actually shifting it. I call it the identity ceiling reset. It's 3 steps to help you close the gap between where your identity currently sits and the creator you know you're capable of becoming. Step 1, identify the ceiling. Before you can change anything, you have to see what's actually going on. So let me ask you something. What level of creator do you actually believe you are right now? Not what you want to be, not your goals, not your vision board. What level do your actions, decisions, and habits actually reflect? Because there's usually a gap between the creator people say they're becoming and the creator they're actually operating as in their everyday life. That gap is the ceiling. Think about a creator who says they want to hit 100,000 subscribers, but they're still making content decisions like someone with 5,000, still watering down the video idea that actually excited them, still hesitating to take a strong stance because they're not sure their audience is ready for it, still telling themselves they'll show up more boldly once the numbers justify it. The goal is 100K, but that identity hasn't left 5K yet. That mismatch is what creates the ceiling. And it shows up in subtle ways. Underpricing yourself, playing small with your content ideas, hesitating on decisions that a more established creator would make without hesitation. It shows up in what you allow yourself to do and what you quietly talk yourself out of. And that pattern of behavior, that's your current identity doing its job. And here's where it gets interesting, because the pattern itself is only half the problem. What's underneath it is what actually keeps most creators stuck. Step 2, expose the pattern. Most creators misread this. They think they're being strategic, careful, even realistic. But what's actually happening is that the subconscious mind is filtering choices through what feels safe for someone at their current perceived level. Most of our behavior is driven by patterns below conscious awareness. You're not consciously deciding to stay small. You're just making 1,000 small decisions every week that are consistent with who you currently believe yourself to be. Here's a pattern I see frequently with creators at this stage. They have a big content idea, something bold, something that actually excites them. And instead of moving forward with it, they spend 2 weeks researching, adjusting, second guessing. By the time they post, they've watered it down so much that it no longer carries the energy that made it worth doing in the first place. They call it perfectionism or being thorough. But underneath it is an identity that doesn't yet feel safe being seen at that level. The idea was just too far ahead of where the identity currently sits. So the pattern quietly pulled it back. So here's how you start to expose it in yourself. I want you to look at the last 3 content decisions you made. Where did you pull back? Where did you play it safe? Where did you water something down that actually had energy? That's the pattern. And that's where your current identity is drawing the line. So now that you can see the pattern clearly, it's time to actually shift it. Step 3, rewire your identity. First, we need to define your next level identity with some clarity, not vague aspirations, but specific operating principles. How does this version of you think about content? What do they prioritize? What do they stop tolerating? What standard are they holding? Get specific enough that you can actually feel the difference between operating from that identity and operating from where you currently are. So here's the real question I want you to sit with. Who is the version of you that actually has the channel you want? Not the tactics they're using, but who are they? What are they doing differently that you're currently not allowing yourself to do? Who are they being? Because until your identity matches that level, your results won't either. Okay, so now that you've clearly defined your next level identity, you have one job: to make decisions from that identity, even before results show up to validate it. This is the piece most creators miss. They're waiting for their channel to grow before they start acting like a creator at that level. But the growth follows the identity, not the other way around. That means making a different decision today, holding a different standard today, saying yes or no to something today based on who you're becoming, not who you've been. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic shift. It just has to be real. One decision made from the next level, even a small one, starts to move your internal baseline higher. The last thing is simple, but not easy. Normalize the discomfort. When you act from a higher identity before the results are there to confirm it, it can feel uncomfortable. And it's not just in your head, it's in your body. It's actually your nervous system registering the unfamiliar as unsafe. Here's what I want you to remember. That feeling is not a signal to stop, because that discomfort you feel, that's what closing the gap actually feels like. And that's where the real growth happens. You now have the full identity reset: the ceiling, the pattern, and the process. Knowing this changes nothing. Doing something with it changes everything. So here's your first move. What's one decision you've been avoiding that your next level self would make immediately? Drop it in the comments, because keeping it in your head is safe, but putting it out there is where it starts to become real. Now that you understand the identity ceiling, there's a deeper layer worth looking at, because identity is shaped by something running underneath it. Patterns that operate almost entirely outside your conscious awareness. And that subconscious programming is quietly driving about 95% of your decisions, your behavior, and how you show up as a creator. I break that down in this video right here. I'll see you there.